Welcome back to another FPL video and podcast. This will be the transfer tips for Gameweek 22, where I highlight 11 players to buy, hold, sell and skip. This video is recorded in the middle of Gameweek 21, so the points and rank you see on the left hand side are after the Tuesday games, but we still have plenty more on the Wednesday, so keep your eyes peeled. I'll show you my updated ranks and stuff like that in the team selection video and my deadline stream, and you can keep your eyes peeled for those pieces of content by liking the video, subscribing to the channel and hitting that notification bell. It goes a long way supporting the channel, and you can follow me across many social media platforms like Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky. There's a Discord server to join, FPL League, Draft Hound, as well as Spotify. Without further ado, let's jump straight into it. First purchase of today's video is Matt Sells, who made 5 saves against Liverpool, and some of them were top quality to deny the likes of Diogo Jota to score a winner for Liverpool there, and that's 4 points out of 6 against the best team in the country. Nottingham Forest have been incredible this season, very competitive in a lot of these games. Only a handful of matches where you could say they were vastly outplayed against Newcastle, Manchester City and Arsenal, but apart from those 3 games, they have been right in it in every single match, even when they lost to Fulham 1-0 at home earlier this season. But that's 9 clean sheets for Sells, 63 saves, so you get a very high ceiling with him, and only Jordan Pickford has more bonus points amongst goalkeepers. That's 9 bonus points for Sells. It's a really good tally for a goalkeeper, and 97 FPL points. He'll probably get to 100 when he faces Southampton. It's a great chance of a clean sheet, and even against the likes of Bournemouth, Brighton and Fulham, there could be a surprising clean sheet there for Nottingham Forest. And I say surprising quite lightly because I think they've got one of the best defences in the Premier League. So Matt Sells for me is a purchase. If you're in the market for a goalkeeper, I'd be looking at Jordan Pickford or the Belgian shot stopper. Chris Wood might have the best underlying stats in the world, but he gets so many bonus points. That's 28 for the season, and he got maximum against Liverpool after giving Nottingham Forest a lead, and that's his first ever goal against the Reds. He's 1 goal shy from his best ever Premier League season tally. He's got 13 in this campaign and 1 assist. I actually started this season with Chris Wood, and his ownership is just so many levels above that now. 34%. He's the most transferred in player at the time of this recording, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. He went up in price overnight to 6.9 million, and that's 123 points for the season with some decent fixtures on the horizon, but Southampton at home next is the best fixture you can ask for. I think Chris Wood is a very simple purchase. You might be looking at Gakpo for that double in Gameweek 24 for Liverpool. Jean-Philippe Mateta has even better fixtures than Nottingham Forest, but Chris Wood is fixture proof, and Nottingham Forest are one of the best teams in the country. A forward that might be going under the radar is Dominic Solanke. I talked about selling him quite a while ago actually, but he has been fairly consistent throughout the entire season. He's got 7 goals and 5 assists in this campaign, but I do like some of these upcoming fixtures. Even Man United at home, Solanke has an excellent record against them. He scored in 3 consecutive games across all competitions against the Red Devils, so twice for Bournemouth last season. In fact, he actually scored in 2 games this season, so that's 4 consecutive games where he scored against Man United, and he could make it 5 in Gameweek 25. Then you look at Leicester and Everton, there could be a goal there for Solanke, but with any Spurs attacker, you're going to have the goal shared, and you have to be prepared for that. But I think Solanke offers better value for money than Heung-min Son. I think the likes of Johnson and Maddison are just rotation risks. Then you look at Kulusevski, who has been brilliant for Spurs this season, but I think Solanke will be more consistent with the attacking output. And you've also got fewer options in the forward line, despite the fact that we've got more options now than we would have at this time last year. Solanke has some decent underlying numbers as well, like an XG figure of 8.19 and 83 FPL points, so a slight underperformance in terms of goals, and you could see him getting some decent returns over the next 4, never mind beyond that, because Spurs have some good long-term fixtures, and over the next 10 game weeks, they are top of the fixture difficulty rating. So I think Dominic Solanke is a buy. In just 18 matches, Wissa has 10 goals for the season and 3 assists, a very healthy return, and 19 big chances. So you've got the underlying stats, you've got decent output, and also a great price point at 6.2 million. He did start the season at 6 million, and the last time I covered him, he was actually even lower than that, but his ownership is 9.6%. He faces Liverpool next, where he is benchable, but I'd argue Wissa is fixture proof. He actually scored against Man City away from home when they were in great form earlier this season, and he did the same thing in the reverse fixture only yesterday. And you've also got Crystal Palace, Tottenham and West Ham, some decent fixtures for attackers like Mbeumo and Wissa, and I certainly wouldn't mind doubling up on that Brentford attack from Gameweek 23 onwards. So if you've got Wissa, I'd recommend holding on to him in most scenarios. He's so close to 100 FPL points as well, just like Matt Sells, and I think Wissa is one of the best forwards in Fantasy Premier League. Amad Diallo was a very popular option heading into Gameweek 21, and we'll see how Man United gets on against Southampton, but even if Amad Diallo blanks, I would not be chopping and changing your budget midfielder necessarily. You've got Semenyo, who has been kind of hit or miss, but when he does return, he can surprise a lot of people, as he did yesterday. You've also got Rodgers, who is a very consistent asset, but only a 6-point difference between Rodgers and Amad Diallo, so I think Amad Diallo is worth holding on to beyond the Southampton fixture, even if he blanks in that game, and he could play as a wing-back in that particular game. He just came off the back of a minor injury problem, which is why he didn't start against Arsenal in the FA Cup. But Diallo has 3 goals and 7 assists in the Premier League this season. 5 big chance created isn't a great stat, and 80 FPL points, but he is a budget midfielder after all. He started the campaign at 5 million, and he has gone up quite significantly to 5.4. His ownership is around 17.9%, and I think he's one of Man United's best players, and if you are kind of ranking their players this season, he'd probably be number 1 actually in a lot of their fans' eyes. But Amad Diallo is a top talent, 26 key passes, 3 big chances, and an XG figure of 2.41. I think the key passes is decent, the rest of those numbers aren't particularly great, but for a budget midfielder, you aren't going to find much better than Amad Diallo. If Fulham manage to find a way to keep more clean sheets, I think Anthony Robinson has a genuine stake as being the best defender in FPL, at least in terms of value. He costs 5 million and he's gone up so much since the start of the season, but he's still worth investment at this point. I just think with the alternatives like Lewis Hall, Konate, Trent, Mykolenko, etc., I think Robinson might not be the best defender to invest in right now. It is Leicester away next, but then it's Man United, and Fulham have a pretty poor record against them. Newcastle away and Nottingham Forest at home don't look great either, but Fulham are one of the few teams to have beaten Nottingham Forest this season with a 1-0 victory actually at the City Ground. But Robinson has that assist threat with 9 assists for the season. He got a brace of them against West Ham, despite them losing 3-2, and that ended a 9-game unbeaten run for Fulham. But 75 FPL points, despite Fulham only keeping 3 clean sheets, is remarkable, and it goes to show how great of an asset Robinson has been because of the assists. So hopefully Fulham can keep more clean sheets from now on, and I think Robinson kind of shoots up into the top 3 defenders in the game, but I'd be holding on to him rather than buying. Before Brentford's late comeback, Gavardia was on course for maximum bonus points and 9 points overall, but it wasn't meant to be, and Man City simply aren't good enough defensively. They concede too many chances, and they just don't have that control in games like they used to with Rodri in the side and in previous seasons. So Gavardia for me is a sell, even against Ipswich Town away, where you could hold on to him. I think he's sellable in Gameweek 22, as I don't think Man City keep a clean sheet as things stand. Then you've got Chelsea, Arsenal and Newcastle. Once City's fixtures get better and you see an improvement defensively, I think Gavardia could be worth investment, perhaps even Rico Lewis, with the departure of Kyle Walker being imminent to AC Milan. But I think it's really a case of holding on to Foden, Savio and Haaland if you've got these assets, but not really investing in them right now. Maybe as a 1-week punt against Ipswich Town, that could work. The same goes for Kevin De Bruyne, but I've got no interest in their defenders, despite Gavardia bombing forward and getting into some great positions. That's why whenever City do keep a clean sheet, Gavardia has a great chance of getting bonus points. That's 30 shots for the season, an XG figure of 2.9 and 7 big chances, but I think Gavardia is a sell. It is a great shame, but Gabriel Jesus is out for the rest of the season with an ACL injury. He's going to miss most of this calendar year and hopefully does recover in a great way, but it's not looking good for the Brazilian. He has been plagued by injuries for his entire career, but at Arsenal, it has been on another level. He had that great start when he first joined the club, then that was put to a halt during the World Cup with that knee injury, and he just hasn't been the same since. But he showed some great form in late December over the Christmas period, scoring a hat-trick against Crystal Palace in the Carabao Cup quarter-finals, following that up with a brace against Crystal Palace in the Premier League, and also a decent return against Brentford. But Gabriel Jesus is now going to be out. It's a very easy sell, but I understand why some of you might not have pulled the trigger in Gameweek 21, and if you've got enough transfers and money available, Gabriel Jesus to Chris Wood is a great upgrade, not to mention Gakpo, Mateta and all the other forwards I've covered in my recent videos like the wildcard teams and the transfer tips. But yeah, Gabriel Jesus, not much more to say about him. You should be looking to sell him. I wouldn't go for Kai Havertz, who will play up front for Arsenal until the end of the season, and it's really a case of investing in other teams. Robert Sanchez had a decent start to this FPL season, but he has tailed off in recent weeks, and Chelsea are winless in 5 Premier League matches. They aren't keeping any clean sheets, really, apart from the one against Everton, and there are some instances where Sanchez has been benched against the weakest teams in the Premier League like Ipswich Town and Southampton, so I think he is sellable, and if you're on the market for a goalkeeper, Pickford and Sales will be my top 2 recommendations. Raya would still be third in that podium, as I believe Arsenal have the best defence in the Premier League still, but if you are buying a goalkeeper now, I'd be looking at one of Sales or Pickford without a shadow of a doubt, and they are massive upgrades on Sanchez in terms of value, bonus points, clean sheets, and the like. They're going to get much more points than Sanchez, and I just don't think the Spaniard is worth investment. He's got 4 clean sheets this season, 1 penalty save, 65 saves overall, and 70 points, but he's really tailed off in the last month or two, and I think all Chelsea defenders should be sold. We're just over halfway through the season, but if I had to kind of nominate certain players for the biggest FPL troll of the campaign, Semenyo would undoubtedly be up there. He's got some tough fixtures on paper coming up, but he could still return against Newcastle, Nottingham Forest and Liverpool. In fact, his next 2 opponents are teams he actually scored or assisted against earlier this season, but he never scored or assisted against Chelsea in his career until yesterday with a 12-pointer, getting an FPL assist, winning the penalty, and then scoring from a very low XG chance. But Semenyo has the shot volume. That's something he's always had in his locker, and for a budget midfielder, you can't really complain, right? But when he has a good fixture, he just doesn't return, and he faces Southampton and the likes of Leicester very soon. It would not surprise me if he blanked in those games and then returned very well against the best teams coming up, like Newcastle. But that's 6 goals and 3 assists this season, 86 FPL points, only 2 less than Rodgers and 6 more than Amad Diallo. But Semenyo is a differential. I just don't think Bournemouth attackers are worth investment at this moment in time with their upcoming fixtures and all the injuries they have, and the likes of Evanilson and Unal being out doesn't spell good news for them in certain matches where Bournemouth might struggle to score or at least create those chances. Semenyo on the left caused Caicedo all sorts of problems, and he could still be a great source of creativity, ball carrying and the occasional goals for Bournemouth, but I wouldn't buy him right now. As soon as I pulled the trigger for Ismaila Sarr and bought him during one of my deadline streams, I regretted the transfer. I should have bought Anthony Gordon. Now, Sarr could do really well against Leicester City in Gameweek 21, and Crystal Palace have excellent fixtures over the next 6 game weeks until they blank in Gameweek 29. At least that's the most likely scenario. But Ismaila Sarr is a skip. If you haven't bought him right now, I wouldn't be looking to invest. Even the likes of Semenyo, Rodgers and Amad, they all are cheaper and they're going to offer more consistency than Ismaila Sarr, who'll get some massive returns from time to time, but also many blanks in the process. He's an inconsistent FPL asset with 4 goals and 3 assists this season and some very good underlying stats, an XGI figure of 7.83, and that's one of the main reasons why I bought him over Eze. But in terms of recent form, I think Eze justifies the extra price tag at this moment in time. 68 FPL points isn't too great. I don't think Ismaila Sarr is a great FPL asset either. He is cheap, he's also low owned and has got great fixtures, so there could be some decent returns, but I wouldn't buy him until we see more consistency. That concludes another Transfer Tips podcast, this time out of Gameweek 22, where I covered 11 players to buy, hold, sell and skip, and I'll discuss other assets in my best wildcard team, the team selection and the deadline stream coming very shortly. And if you want to see a reaction stream, then like this video, let's get it to over 200 likes, and subscribe to the channel, hitting that notification bell in the process. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM, and check all the links in the description below for my Patreon and the championships for early access to my videos, amongst many other perks, the Discord server, FPL League Draft Hound, as well as Spotify. You can also find my Blue Sky there by typing FPL Dylan on that social media platform. I wish you all the best of luck for Gameweek 21, 22, and the rest of the season, and I'll see you in the next deadline stream.